welcome back to another edition of Bailey Price Media Live.
Bailey Price Media, I like it.
Man, what's going on, everybody? Happy Tuesday. Welcome back to another edition of Bailey Price Media Live. Today, I got a very, very special show for you. Horns 247, Texas Longhorns football analyst Chip Brown joins the show. We're going to discuss all things Texas Longhorns football, including them citing the number one transfer portal tight end coming from Cal. We're going to discuss that. Jack Endries, who I think is a hell of a player. 247 clocked him at a 4.68 40, I believe. So I think he's a freakazoid athlete. We're going to discuss with Chip. We're also going to discuss Matthew Golden. As you guys know, we've had Super Bowl champion Sean King on, who raves about Matthew Golden and believes he's the best wide receiver coming out in this draft. So I'm going to ask Chip about that and whether he agrees with Sean King or not. We're also going to discuss Texas star defensive end Colin Simmons saying he wants to break Texas's sack record. He also switched his number to number one because he says he is the one. So we're going to discuss that as well. We're also going to talk NFL draft as the draft's 2 days away. I want to ask Chip about Kelvin Banks and where he thinks he's going to go and so much more. But if you're watching, go ahead and hit that like button, subscribe, become a member of the Bailey Price Media Army today. If you have any super chat questions or like to ask Chip a question, go ahead and drop a donation. Hit that super chat button. We'll get your question right away. But without further ado, Horns 247, Texas Longhorns analyst Chip Brown joins the show. Chip, man, I can't thank you enough for joining, man. How you doing on this fine Tuesday?
Hey, how's it going?
Man, it's great, man. It's happy to be in the building, my man. We got a lot of news going on, a lot of transfer portal kind of movement, going on as college teams in Texas is spring practice is underway. And Chip, I won't waste any of your time. Let's get into it here. So Texas signs the number one transfer portal tight end, Jack Endries, coming from Cal. Endries is a hell of a player, 6'4", and I believe 247 actually clocked him at a 4.68 40-yard dash, which is pretty damn impressive coming from a tight end. Endries comes over to Texas, and I think he'll be a safety blanket for Arch Manning. Chip, what are your thoughts on the signing for Texas? Kind of break this down, and how will this impact Texas's offense going into next season?
Yeah, it's a big-time signing. He was Jack Endries, the number one tight end in the transfer portal, and he's a do-it-all guy. You know, he can block, he can get down the field, he can catch. He's experienced. He had 56 catches last year for Cal, the tight end last year, Gunnar Helm, set the receptions record with 60 catches for a tight end in a single season. So Endries is a prolific guy. He's experienced. He knows how to get open against zone, against man. I think this is a huge pickup because Texas, after losing Gunnar Helm and Juan Davis last year, two experienced guys, they were going to, turn to guys who had never really played because Amari Niblack, who transferred over from Alabama, ended up transferring again because he had to sit behind Gunnar Helm. He transferred to Texas A&M. So they were looking at sophomore Spencer Shannon, who I think is going to be a good player, but he'll get, and he'll rotate in. Jordan Washington's another guy who they're very excited about. Emery Winston is a true freshman who lit up the spring. But yeah, Jack Endries, he's going to be a big time go-to guy for Arch Manning. I'm not even sure, I think they've met on when Endries visited, but they're going to have to get to know each other real quick.
Definitely. And I felt as though Gunnar Helm was our Quinn Ewers safety blanket, so to speak, for the last few seasons. I feel like having that was a key part in Ewers' development, his success, so to speak. Now, let me ask you, do you think Endries can fill that role that Helm has held for the last 2 seasons? Obviously, a hell of a player Texas is losing, but a hell of a player Texas is getting in the portal from Cal. Do you think he can step up and fill Helm's role, so to speak?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, you catch 56 balls at the tight end position in one season. You know how to get open. You you're a guy that is trusted, obviously,
Mhm.
by the quarterback, and smart guy, obviously, went to Cal. So Steve Sarkisian's offense is pretty layered. It's very conceptual. You have to know how you fit into every play, and that's something that younger players, it takes a little time to absorb. And with Endries being a guy who's already done it, I think he, he sure looks like, I watched his film. He sure looks like the kind of guy who can come in and is a walk-in, plug-and-play starter.
Ooh, man, Chip, that makes me excited. We're going to discuss Arch Manning in a second because I got so many questions I got to ask you about Arch. But let me ask you about the transfer portal. I had Rodney Anderson, Oklahoma star running back from, played about 6 years ago, his teammates with Baker Mayfield. And I asked him about the transfer portal. He's working with NIL with the Sooners. And I asked him just about the transfer portal, the landscape, just the landscape of college football. It's definitely changed since he was playing over the last 6 years, changed since I was playing as well. What are your thoughts on the transfer portal as a whole, the lack of regulation, so to speak, NIL, and just this era of college football, how it's changed over the last 5 years as you guys at the Longhorns get Jack Endries here? Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, it's so crazy. I wrote, back in, when Claudia Wilkin, the federal judge in the O'Bannon case, said that if they would have given student athletes $5,000 in name, image, and likeness money, all of this would have been avoided.
Right.
And
yeah.
the schools ignored it. They hoped it would go away. Then the lawmakers got involved, and suddenly any hope for guardrails were out the window. And now you've got schools, digging around in the couch cushions, trying to come up with money, not only for facility upgrades, but now for, every sport. I mean,
Right.
it's not just football. It's not just basketball. It's not just baseball. You got softball. You got women's basketball. These players are commanding six figures. Nigeri Kennedy at Texas Tech got $1 million as a softball pitcher.
Yeah.
I mean, and if you have boosters who are just sports crazy and money out the yin yang, you can compete. I mean, Texas Tech.
Oh yeah.
In NIL spending on JT Toppin for basketball, and football. They've got the #1 class in the transfer portal, and Nigeri Kennedy, the $1 million softball pitcher, and they've got a booster named Cody Campbell, who just sold his energy company for $3 billion.
$4 billion, that's right. Yeah.
And he's, he loves his school. He wants them to compete. And I guess his wife is okay with him throwing tens of millions of dollars at these student athletes. So it's unsustainable.
Agreed.
And if you have a downturn in your program, some of these boosters are going to be like, I'm kind of, there's donor fatigue, they call it. And so I'll give credit to Steve Sarkisian. Ever since the 5-7 season in 2021, he's maintained momentum for the program.
Definitely.
In 2022, he goes 8-4 and he gets Arch Manning. In 2023, goes to the college football playoff, gets the Final Four. Same in 2024. And in both of those games, they were knocking on the door.
Yeah, that's right.
With a chance to either tie or take the lead late. So he's maintained that momentum. I think a lot of offensive-minded players want to play in his offense because they see guys like Matt Golden and Xavier Worthy go on to the league, and so as long as Sarkisian's putting up prolific numbers, attracting top quarterbacks, the skill players want to come play with a great quarterback. So he's reeling them in right now.
Definitely. And like you mentioned, I'm a big fan of Sark. I grew up in Seattle, so I was a little kid when he was at Washington way back in the day. Now we've seen him, 10 years later, really progress, and I think Texas is going to be formidable next season. And Chip, I got to ask you, I don't want to take up too much of your time here. I want to go Arch Manning here, talk some quarterbacks here. Chip, let me ask you, well, how do you think Arch Manning sitting behind Quinn Ewers impacted his development? I think as we see in the transfer portal era across college football here, you see a lot of talented quarterbacks if they're sitting behind an older player or somebody that's more experienced, they'll elect to transfer and hit the transfer portal and go find a school to play right away, rather than do what Arch Manning has done at Texas, which is sit behind Quinn Ewers, really develop and learn in Sark's system. How do you think Arch Manning sitting behind Quinn Ewers has impacted his development? Go ahead.
Well, he wanted to go to a school where he would not get thrown in, because he played at Isidore Newman High School in New Orleans, which is a private school. It's not, he's not competing with the best of the best in New Orleans. It's a great school. And so he wanted to go somewhere where he could learn slowly. And so this has gone the way he expected it to go. And he's gotten to, learn from Ewers, who I thought was amazing in handling all that it takes to be the quarterback at Texas. I mean,
definitely,
you're getting pulled on in every direction. You're expected to be the man. He won big games, at Michigan, at Alabama, the 4th and 13 pass to beat Arizona State in the college football playoff quarterfinals last year. All the media, and Arch got to watch Quinn take the good and the bad.
Definitely.
And so I think Arch is ready. There's no doubt he's a fierce competitor. He can't wait. You're hearing stories out of spring that he's chirping at the defense, keeping it lively. And I think Arch has the respect of the locker room for sure. He leads in plays in a little more emotional, outwardly display. Quinn was the ultimate poker player. I mean, he just, it's like he had a low heartbeat. You rarely, he wasn't, yelling, screaming. He's one of these cerebral guys. And I remember his high school coach telling me there were times I wanted him to get more fired up, and that's just not Quinn. So it will be different from that standpoint, because I do think Arch is a fiery guy. But his teammates love him. And I think, they lost 10 key contributors on offense, including Ewers. But 4 starters on the offensive line: Matt Golden, Isaiah Bond, Jaden Blue, who had both touchdowns in the college football playoff semifinal against Ohio State. They lost a lot of dudes, and some of these guys who are elevating to the first team with Arch have been practicing with Arch the last 2 years.
Right. Yeah.
So he's got chemistry with them, and by all accounts, spring football, he was on point. The offense, moved the football. Now there were days where the defense got him, but obviously the expectations are there no matter how many guys are in the NFL draft this week. So Arch knows that. He knows the expectations are through the roof. And what I like is his younger brother, Hyde, is a freshman at Texas.
Ooh.
And nobody knows about Hyde, but Arch and he are as tight as can be. And Hyde is, he was his center in high school, but he's in a fraternity at Texas. He's having a good time. He's like, I'm living my best life.
Right. Yeah.
I get to hang out with my brother when I want. I can be around the football team when I want. And then when Arch needs to unplug from football, he can go hang out with his brother. So he's got a good support system around him, and his family's great. So, I think Arch Manning's got a chance to be really special in year one as a starter.
Definitely. And Chip, that makes me excited for the Longhorns going into this season. I view Arch Manning up there right now for me going into this season in terms of my quarterbacks that I'm most excited for. It's him, Arch. I'm really big on Lenora Sellers over at South Carolina. I think he's a hell of a player. Lagway down at Florida, and then North Carolina just signed a transfer kid. His name's Gio Lopez from South Alabama, a lefty kid who I'm really, really high on as well. But man, I think my biggest takeaway from Arch Manning watching Texas last season, I felt at times, and I talked about about this with Sean King a lot about Texas and Quinn Ewers and Arch Manning. I felt as though Texas and Sark really exercise his discipline, so to speak, when it comes to not playing Arch Manning. Because I think at times, I don't know how if you or Texas Longhorn Nation feels this way, but I felt as though at times, man, if they had gone with Arch Manning, it might have even put them over the top last season, so to speak, with all those weapons you just mentioned. They're losing to the draft. But man, if they had put an Arch last season, I think they could have really gone over the top. But nonetheless, now Arch sits back. Watch what Quinn Ewers did last season going into this season. I think there's no limit for Arch's potential going into this season. Texas and the SEC. Go ahead.
It was a juggling act for sure for Sark, because you bring in Quinn Ewers, and Ewers lifted the program up off of the floor. And Ewers, he got injured each year. He missed games. And last year he suffers the, he got he had a couple things, but
he had a couple different injuries.
He had an ankle. He had the oblique.
Yeah. So,
and he's tough. So he's telling Sark, I'm good, I can play. But there were, that Georgia game, he wasn't right. And so Sark was loyal to Quinn, and Quinn, he got better, healthier as the year went on, and he was this close. I don't blame him they had 1st and goal from the 1, and that's on Sark. I mean, he's got to have an identity down there. He's got to get it in the end zone. You can't be running a toss sweep after the first run into the line goes for no gain. I mean, and then, suddenly it's 4th and 8 and the right tackle whiffs and Jack Sawyer absolutely clocks him. He fumbles, and that's all anyone remembers. But Quinn Ewers led him down the field to 1st and goal from the 1. And Sark owed him a better play call than that toss sweep down there.
No, I definitely agree with you, Chip. And the minute I saw that, I think it was like a shotgun toss or something. I was like, oh, boy, that's a tough call.
Caleb Downs on the other side? No.
That's a tough call on the goal line there. Chip, I can't thank you enough for joining. I got to ask you real quick before we get out of here. Texas star defensive end Colin Simmons says he's trying to break Texas's sack record. Simmons obviously had 9 sacks as a true freshman last season. One of the players I'm really, really high on going into the season in college football. He switched his number from 11 to 1, saying he is the one. Chip, is this a realistic goal from Simmons here? Can he break Texas's sack record? I think it would be huge for his NFL draft stock. Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, Texas's single season sack record is 22.5. By a guy named Kiki Diayala back in 1982. That tells you how long it's stood. But if anyone can do it, Colin Simmons, I mean, he wasn't even a starter last year and he had 9 sacks.
Right. Yeah.
He's, they've moved the guy who was starting ahead of him, Trey Moore, to weak side linebacker, in part because he's a tweener and he needs to show the NFL he can play some other positions, but really because Colin Simmons is a freak. And this guy is, he's the real deal. If he stays healthy, and he's only going to get better, I think the sky's the limit. I'm not going to say he can't do it because this guy's set his mind to it. And I remember Ricky Williams telling me, I'm going to break the all-time rushing record. I'm like, huh? That thing stood since 1976. And by God, he broke it. So, Tony Dorsett was there cheering him on when he broke it. So I think Colin Simmons is in that kind of class. I think he's that kind of athlete. So the guys love him. He talks. He is a world-class trash talker. And he's going to be super fun to watch. Yeah, number 1, because he's the one at Texas.
That's right. And him moving to 1 that, I played college football. I played center though, Chip. So I didn't get to wear the 1s and the 2s and all the nice jersey numbers.
What were you wearing, 50?
No, I was wearing 75, Chip.
Okay, all right.
I was in the 70s number back in the day. Before we get out of here, I'll go ahead and show us Colin Simmons actually talking about this, saying he wants to break the Texas sack record. Take a look.
How many sacks are you going to get this year? Any predictions?
I'm trying to break the sack record. I'll just say that.
Okay. So what is the
Trying to break the sack record, Chip? I think it's a great goal for Simmons there. And Man, Chip, it has been a complete honor for you to join the show. I really appreciate you joining, man. I know you're a busy man. Got your show here very, very soon, so I'll let you go. I can't thank you enough for joining, man. I appreciate you. I'd love to have you on again soon, man.
Hey, Bailey, appreciate it, man. Take care, and we'll talk down the road.
Absolutely, man. Take care. Have a great Tuesday, man. Shout out to Chip Brown for joining the show. Texas Longhorns 247 analyst. Talked all things Texas Longhorns football. I know it was a shorter show today. Chip's a busy man, but I can't thank him enough for joining. It was a complete honor. Give us that breakdown on Arch Manning here. Man, it makes me excited to see Arch Manning play going into next season. Like I mentioned to Chip, Arch is, among my top 5 quarterbacks that I'm most excited to see going into next season, along with Arch, Lenore Sellers over at South Carolina, Lagway down at Florida, Gio Lopez over at UNC, and several others I'll break down as well. But, man, it's been a great show. If you guys are watching, go ahead and hit that like button, subscribe, become a member of the Bailey Price Media Army. I'll be back tomorrow live with Matt Manchesi on 0 to 60 to talk all things Colorado Buffaloes football. I'm sure we got a lot to talk about. Got Prime Sexuals saying that Chad Brown was a hater on our show yesterday, so that's always interesting. But nonetheless, we'll also be live on Coach JB's show tomorrow morning, 6 a.m. Pacific, 9 a.m. Eastern. Go ahead and check that out as well. If you're watching, go ahead and hit that like button, subscribe, become a member. Enjoy your Tuesday. I appreciate you all watching. I'll see you live again here on Thursday on Bailey Price Media Live. Enjoy your Tuesday. Peace.